Welcome to Detroit Report, your one-stop shop for morning news. Today is April 5th, 1968, and the current time is 6 a.m. The city is still alive, with the sounds of people either moving around rioting or frantically fleeing our still burning city.
We have confirmed tragically this morning that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has passed away during the night while being treated for a gunshot wound to his jaw.
With the shot that ended Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, the nation itself has erupted into fire. As that fire spreads to our city, it has found a hotbed of coals from the riots from last summer.
This fire is consuming our city in hate-formed riots and by depopulating it of those with the means to leave.
April seems to be leading into another trying summer for our Mayor Kavanaugh, who, like our city, is still recovering from the surely historic race riots of last summer. The civil rights movement was increasingly prevalent in Detroit. The desegregation of schools and the deindustrialization caused a reshuffling of neighborhoods. The majority of white Detroiters fled to the suburbs and left the inner-city neighborhoods with primarily African-American residents. The white politicians were not concerned with these newly populated neighborhoods, which left the people with housing and employment discrimination, poor access to medical services, underfunded public education, and racism from law enforcement, which left the city as you are seeing it now.
The seemingly prophetic words from the mayor from last July seem to echo throughout the past year to today. Today we stand amidst the ashes of our hopes. We hoped against hope that what we had been doing was enough to prevent a riot. It was not enough.
Due to the way the nation has been rocked, especially our city, the Detroit Tigers opening day has been postponed to April 10th, where they will be taking on the Boston Red Sox.
Despite these tumultuous times, Detroit is hopeful for a strong showing by our Tigers. The outfielders lead by the legendary Al Kaline and Detroit's own Willie Horton.
Willie Horton was much more than a 24-year-old Detroit Tiger. When asked about what he had witnessed of the riots, Horton stated, "I don't think I'm just a ball player. This is our town. This is our home. I think I can bring peace."
Now for a brief short from one of our sponsors, Detroit's own Ford Motor Company.
Free to be the guy you wanna be. Free to be the girl you're gonna be. And if you think it's never gonna come true, it's gonna happen when Mustang happens to you. Only Mustang makes it happen. Let it happen, it's your fate. Mustang's calling, have a ballin'. Mustang 68. Only Mustang makes it happen. Mustang 68.
Ford has a better idea.
Now we cut to this gorgeous, user-submitted clip of last year's 1967 Mustang Coupe. The easiest tell for our motorheads in the group between the 67 and 68 models are those side marker lights, required this year by the DOT for all cars produced after January 1st of 1968. Like many of the cars produced in our time, the 67 Mustang is a highly modifiable vehicle, especially as the engine bay has been widened to fit the more powerful, big block motors, like this pink 351 Windsor engine. Following that pink aesthetic, the rest of the car's gorgeous body lines find themselves accented in that same pink color, even down to the inner trim and the gauges for the different dials. The Chevrolet Camaro, their competitor to the Mustang, for the 67 lineup, may want to stay hidden behind its little bow tie anytime this viewer's pink little pony is on the streets. So, as someone from the area, how do you feel the events of 67 and of course especially 68 are impacting Detroit today?
Well, as someone who grew up about 45 miles west from Detroit, in like the late 90s, early 2000s, it was prevalent that the events from those years still impacted the city. Detroit is known as a dangerous, drug-infested city that, from someone coming from the country outside of it, you don't go there unless you have a reason. The only time my family and I ever went to Detroit was to go to the Tigers games, get some really good Mexican food, or to see a concert. Other than that, it was a city that you avoided. How did the 1968 Detroit Tigers team impact the city?
Yeah, so obviously coming off of the riots of '67, the Detroit Tigers had a fantastic season. They ended up winning the World Series that year, and being led by Willie Horton, who was only one of 3 African-American men on the team. Like sports has a tendency to do, it was able to offer a glimmer of hope, even for a short period of time, to kind of rally that city and those people, and it was even to this day, considered a really big sports moment for that city.
As a car enthusiast, what kind of impact would you say that cars had on the culture for the 1968 era?
So cars, and especially the late 60s cars with that muscle car era with things like the Mustang and Camaro, they give youth especially this kind of sense of freedom and cultural belonging. There are these cars that come out and they're not the cookie cutter, old school, Model Ts, your 30s era sedans. They're these mean, aggressive muscle cars that you can do anything and everything to. So kids would take them and they'd swap engines. There was a Hertz Rent-A-Racer program. They would rent a race car, steal the engine over the weekend, and return it with a little V6 in it. And so they'd have this bad muscle car. They'd go around, they'd drive, and they'd listen to all kinds of music that really influences their thoughts and everything. And it just, cars at this time just represent such a freedom that really wasn't available to youth before